Hi, it's Virginia McClain here to read Chapter 6 of Victoria Marmot and the Meddling Goddess. Since I just recorded Chapter 5, I feel like I've already chatted a little bit, so I'm just going to dive right in here. When last we left our hero, she had just made a beeline for the locker rooms after having to leave swim practice early because a creepy naked Edic was swimming underwater underneath her while she was trying to do laps. So, and then of course there was a fight with a wolf and then also maybe Seamus, and it was all very confusing. So yeah, Vic has beeline for the locker room and we pick up with her next. Chapter 6. I was still shaking a bit when I stepped into the warm afternoon that awaited me outside of the pool building. I closed my eyes, letting the mountain sun heat my face up a bit before I started my walk home. With my eyes closed and the fall-scented mountain breeze in my lungs, I could almost pretend I was back home in Colorado. Almost. Opening my eyes always brought a tinge of disappointment as I took in the view that lacked a full range of white-capped mountains. At least the view had a mountain. It could have been worse. Could have been in the flatlands. I still wasn't sure why my parents had kept a home in northern Arizona that I'd never known about, or why they had left it to me only on the condition that I occupy it. It had required leaving the high school that I'd been attending for the past 3 years and all the friends I had made there, and starting over from scratch. When I'd first read the will, I had thought that part had been particularly cruel. High school was hard enough without having to be the new kid in your senior year. But then I realized my parents probably hadn't been planning on dying. I suppose they hadn't really expected any of this to come up just yet. So the only odd thing, then, was that I hadn't known about the place at all. I mean, isn't it a little weird that they owned a whole house that I never knew about? Also odd that they'd made a provision in their will for me to occupy the house alone, even if I was still underage. Technically, my great-uncle Algernon was my legal guardian, but he was only required to check on me once a month. We didn't have to live together. My lawyers, yes, my inheritance had come with lawyers, told me that was rare. But whatever, at least I had a place to live, even if it was in a different state from everyone I'd known for most of my life. Still, after all the awkward silences, pitying looks, and sympathy hugs I'd gotten after my parents had died, moving 12 hours away from my friends had seemed like a fine idea when the time came. Not to mention how impossibly lonely our Colorado home had seemed after the accident. Anyway, I hadn't even made it a block away from the nondescript concrete building that was Flagstaff High School when I felt a hand on my shoulder, and Seamus wound up eating dirt. I realized who it was halfway through the throw and did what I could to help him land well, but he still hit the ground with the kind of gasp that lets everyone know that it's going to take a minute before that person can start breathing again. Shit. Sorry, Seamus. Don't do that. Seamus still didn't have air in his lungs, so I tried to help him to a standing position while he worked on reinflating his lungs. "My bad," he muttered, when he finally had enough air to speak. "I should have known you'd be on edge." I shrugged. Not a good idea to grab me when I can't see you anyway. Muscle memory takes over. He raised an eyebrow at that. "I've been studying mixed martial arts since I was 10? Right, okay. Mental note, do not touch Vic without her explicit permission." I nodded. Not a bad rule for all humans, really. Seamus thought about that. He nodded, and then frowned. "I'm pretty cuddly with my friends, though. Male or female doesn't matter. I like to hug, wrap my arm around people's shoulders and stuff." I smiled. "I'm not saying you shouldn't touch people, Seamus. Just make sure they're cool with it first. You don't need a written waiver every damn time, but, pay attention to body language and facial expressions, and if you're ever in doubt, just ask." He looked upset, so I continued. "I, for one, love hugs from my friends. Just need to be able to see them coming. And if I don't ever feel like being touched, I will sure as hell let you know." "Preferably before you knock the wind out of me," Seamus said. I shrugged again. "Preferably, but I make no guarantees. Don't sneak up on me. I've been trained to hurt people who do." "Fair enough," he said. Then he hunched his shoulders and stepped back a bit. "Well, this makes half of my mission seem obsolete." "Oh? What was your mission?" "To thank you for saving my butt in there," he began. and to offer to walk you home in case Pervy McPerverson decided to show up again. That made me smile. I appreciate the gesture, Seamus. But I think I can handle Mr. McNopants if I need to. After all, he's made it extremely easy for me to kick him in the nuts. Seamus chortled briefly before looking serious again. I don't like the idea of you going home alone now that he's got his sights on you. I was no longer smiling. Dude, keep your overprotective alpha male shit to yourself. I can defend myself, and you have no responsibility to protect me. I'll see you tomorrow. With that, I turned on my heel. I liked Seamus. He had a good sense of humor, and he seemed like good company, but I had zero tolerance for patriarchal bullshit. Vic, wait! I did not wait. At least he was smart enough not to try to make me stop walking away. About a block later, I caught a strange, dark form out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned to look at it, I saw nothing. My house was basically a straight shot down the road from where I stood, but I decided to make a detour to see if whatever I'd glimpsed was following me. Sure enough, after I turned right down a side street, I saw it again. This time, I waited until I was sure the dark patch was in my peripheral vision and didn't break my stride. Then, I suddenly flipped around and saw what was clearly following me. A wolf. And not just any wolf. The same black wolf that had launched itself into the pool after Edic had shown up. What the fuck? I stared at the wolf. It stared back. I considered my options. It whined. I ran. And that is the end of chapter 6. That is it for today, I think, and I will try to read and record chapter 7 for tomorrow. I hope this finds you reasonably well, staying entertained, and staying home, flattening the curve if you can, or working an essential job, in which case, super huge thanks to you. And thank you to everybody staying home also. That's really a huge part of this. So thanks to everyone for doing their bit. And I am, gonna go maybe see about dinner with my family. Hope you guys are doing well. Stay safe.